So hey guys, welcome to the second lecture on E 2015. In this course, we'll be mainly dealing with linear networks or what we call as linear systems. So a linear system doesn't necessarily mean there is a linear relationship between V and I. There can be a linear relationship between any of the parameters like for a capacitor Q and V are linearly related, and for an inductor the flux and the current are linearly related. But what a linear network or system means is that let's say for an input of x1 our output is y1 and the output is y1 y2 for an input of x2. So if for an input of ax1 plus bx2 our output is ay1 plus by2, this implies that our system is linear. So that is the sort of system we are going to study about in this course. Next concept that we can look at is basically how many KVL and KCL equations a circuit can possibly have. In this example that I've taken, this 4 nodes and 6 branches. So I mean, for each of the nodes, you can write an equation, but the bottommost node is kind of redundant because the nodal equation for the bottom node is just the sum of the other three nodal equations. So I mean, if you are looking at the number of independent KCL equations, it's just going to be 3. And in each of these 6 branches, we've connected electrical elements. So, I mean, for each of the electrical element, there will be a voltage and the current associated with it. So, since there's 6 branches, we'll have a total of 12 variables, and we can describe those 12 variables using 12 independent equations. And out of those 12 independent equations, we have 3 independent KCL equations. And for each of the element, we'll have a VI relation. So there will be 6 VI relation. Depending on the nature of the element, I mean, we can write the VI relation. So 6 VI relations, and 3 of them are the independent KCL equations. So the remaining 3 are the independent KVL equations, which we have for our given example. So if I try and generalize this, for a circuit with n nodes, we'll have n minus 1 independent KCL equations, which we write with respect to a reference node. And if we have B branches in a circuit, we'll have a total of 2B variables, like assuming each of them has some connection or some element in it. And we'll have 2B equations, out of which B equations will be used to describe the VI relation. And there will be n minus 1 equations used to describe the KCL equations. So since B of them are for Vi and n minus 1 are the independent KCL equations, we can say that B minus of n minus 1, that is B minus n plus 1, is going to be the number of independent KVL equations, right? And I mean, till now we've looked at passive elements like resistor, capacitor, and voltage, like basic intuition. And then if we try and look at what independent sources are, I mean, if it's an independent voltage source, irrespective of the current that is flowing through it, the potential difference is going to be constant. And for an independent current source, the current flowing through it is going to be constant irrespective of the potential difference. Now, if you look at some dependent sources are basically those sources for which the potential or the current will depend on some other parameter within the circuit. I mean, it could be from another circuit too, but let's say in some part of the circuit, the potential difference is Vx. Okay, I mean, first we'll study about voltage control voltage source. So for this voltage source, if the potential difference across this voltage source is going to be dependent on the potential in some other part of the circuit, like let's say Vx is the potential difference in some other part of the circuit, and if the potential difference across this voltage source is k into Vx, then this will be a voltage controlled voltage source. Now, if this voltage or the potential difference across this voltage source depends on the current flowing in some part of the circuit, it is a current controlled voltage source. As in, like if Ix is flowing in some part of the circuit, and probably you can write this as R into Ix, where R is like our resistance, which is also called as, I mean, it's called as the trans resistance. So, I mean, you can write it as R into Ix. And if you're looking at a dependent current source, it can be dependent on the voltage in some other part or the current. So if it's a voltage controlled current source, we can write the current as some G into Vx, where G's are trans conductance. And if it's a current controlled current source, if the current flowing in some part of the circuit is Ix, then the current through this current source will be some K into Ix, where K is some like constant. And if you look at some very basic power and energy relations, I mean, using the passive sign convention, which we looked at in the previous class, the power is going to be Vi. But the power here, that is P, refers to the power that is absorbed or stored or dissipated by the element. As in, like we can write it as absorbed by the element, but it is the power for a passive element. Okay, that is something you need to keep in mind. And if we write the relation for a resistor, the power dissipated in the resistor is going to be IR square into R, or it can also be written as VR square by R, and this is definitely greater than or equal to 0, and hence like from this we can conclude that our resistive element is passive. And next, if we try and look at a capacitor, the power relation isn't really of much significance to us because the capacitor stores energy. So if we try and find the energy stored in a capacitor, I mean, this is already a familiar relationship which you've looked at. So I mean, the energy stored in the capacitor is going to be half CV square, where V is the voltage at that instant of time we are observing the. And if you look at an inductor similarly, the energy stored in the inductor is going to be half Li square. So I mean, these two are already like quite familiar to you, I guess. Now, if you look at this example VI graph, I mean, this is a VI graph for some electrical element. I mean, these are different graphs, but then let's say these are the VI graphs you have for a particular set of elements. So in the region where the product of V and I, that is the passive power, is greater than or equal to 0, the element has passive behavior, or the element is a passive element. So in the first and third quadrant, the element will have passive behavior, but in the second and fourth quadrant, where the product of E and I is less than or equal to 0, the element behaves like an active element. And I mean, we have this curve in the fourth quadrant. We have this active region for a particular element, and this is similar to the Vi characteristic of a solar cell. A solar cell is also active in this region, and its Vi curve is also of similar shape. Like just giving an example. So in the region where V into I is less than or equal to 0, the circuital element will be active, and in other cases where V into I is greater than or equal to 0, it will be passive. So I mean, these are the basic concepts I wanted to look at in this lecture. In the next lecture, we'll be looking at nodal analysis and get started off with it.